Hello and welcome to the Monday edition of the Post-Gazette Penguins podcast. I'm your host, King Jemison, and it was a busy weekend for the Pens. They played two games in two different cities, first traveling to New York, where they took a disappointing shootout loss. They then came back home for what seemed like a much tougher game against the Vegas Golden Knights, but it sure didn't seem like it. The Penguins absolutely dominated the Pacific Division leaders in a 5-0 rout. We're going to talk about some of the storylines coming out of both those games, including the continued shootout struggles, the sudden face-off problem without Sidney Crosby, and then the good news, Arturs Silovs' dominance over his past few starts, and the incredible run Ben Kindel is on. But before we dive into all that, I want to remind you that this show is presented by FanDuel, where you can bet on all the NHL action. A pretty busy NHL slate tonight on Monday night, including Columbus at the Rangers on NHL Network. The Jackets are one of the teams chasing the Pens in the Metropolitan Division, but they've fallen 9 points behind the Penguins and Islanders, who each have 75 points and are second and third in the Metro. Pens have played two fewer games than the Islanders, so they're still holding on to that second spot. But this is a win that Columbus needs against the team at the bottom of the Metro standings. But it will be helpful for Pittsburgh if New York can pull another upset. The Rangers are plus 105 underdogs at FanDuel. The Pens playoff odds also continue to get better. They're now minus 380 at FanDuel. Those are the seventh lowest odds in the NHL. So it seems like odds makers were impressed at the demolition of the Vegas Golden Knights on Sunday. So let's start, though, with Saturday's loss for a matinee game in New York. And the Pens came out looking really, really good. They took a 2-goal lead. Really could have been more. Brian Rust had a power play goal that was waved off in the first period for goalie interference. Very minimal contact between Anthony Mantha and Igor Shesterkin. I think by the letter of the law, Mantha's skate touched Shesterkin's skate, didn't allow him to push over and make the save on Rust. So I did not think that was worthy of a call, given some of the more apparent goalie interferences that are not called, but I understand it. Regardless, they were able to get the 2-goal lead anyway early in the second period on a Ryan Shea shot. But from that point forward, with 38 minutes to play in regulation, the Rangers absolutely dominated the game. The Rangers, who are far and away at the bottom of the Eastern Conference standings, made the Pens look pretty bad the rest of that game. They were able to find a couple goals and send the game to overtime. The Penguins recovered in overtime to have the better chances, I think, but Shesterkin had the answers, and then it went to a shootout. Kind of already knew how that was going to go. The Pens fell to 1-8 in shootouts. That's the most shootout losses in franchise history. Credit to Dan Muse. He did try new things. He sent out Anthony Mantha for his first shootout attempt of the season. Unfortunately, Mantha didn't get the puck off his stick trying to make a backhand move. He sent out Tommy Novak for the second time this season. Novak missed the net high on a do-or-die try. And listen, I get it. Shesterkin is one of the best goalies in the league, and he was playing really well after the early part of that game. They did not look for those Penguin skaters like there was a lot of daylight in the net. And so I think that probably contributed to the struggles there. And then Igor Chinikov, he's a shoo-in to go out in the shootout at this point, but he was stopped as well, trying to go 5-hole with that rocket of a release. But Shesterkin had the answers. And then Stuart Skinner, in his first shootout as a Penguin, was 1 for 2. He was able to stop JT Miller, but Miller's Pittsburgh Hornets youth hockey teammate, Vincent Trocheck, an Upper St. Clair native, not so much. He made a really nice move to score, and that was the decisive play. And we'll talk about another impact that Trocheck had in that game as well. But listen, I kind of feel for Dan Muse in the sense that there's not a whole lot he can try. They are practicing shootouts. We see it in practice. And he is sending out different guys. Sidney Crosby, we know, has not had a good year on the shootout. He's 1 for 7, wasn't particularly good last year either. So we'll see if when he comes back healthy, if he gets right back into that shootout lineup. But for now, Muse is experimenting. It's just not really working. Some people that he can maybe look to, Malkin has only had 2 attempts this year. He hasn't been great across his career, but is 1 for 2 this season. Chris Letang, another guy not good across his career in terms of his shootout percentage, or at least not great. But he has looked good in practice. He's been one of the few guys scoring when they've had these shootout portions that we've been able to see. Ben Kindel has looked good as well, just the moves that he can pull off. Based on the fact that he was wearing the Viking helmet in Sweden, we know that he won whatever shootout competition they were having over there. So he's got some moves. I'd give him a try. He hasn't had a single attempt. And Raquel is 40% in his career. That's one of the best career percentages for any Penn skater. He's just 1 for 3 this season, though. So I could see why Muse didn't turn to him, but he's another guy. I mean, there's not great options, but Muse has to continue to try new things and continue to take that data from practice as well. But at this point, the Pens are just really, really thankful that shootouts are not a part of the playoffs, because they look like they're headed to the playoffs if they can just sustain their level of play without Sidney Crosby, or even a semblance of it. And the shootouts are something they want to avoid desperately. I think maybe the best answer is just find some more goals in the 3-on-3 overtime. But the other big problem Saturday was faceoffs. So the Pens lost 77% of the faceoffs. It was the worst percentage performance in the faceoff dot that the Penguins have had since the NHL began tracking the stat 30 seasons ago, according to Pens historian Bob Grove. So yeah, since 1996-97, they have not had a worse day in the faceoff dot. And Vincent Trocheck, as I said, Upper St. Clair native Vincent Trocheck, had a big hand in that. He was 18 for 21 on draws. Rickard Rakell was 0 for 10. We know he's not really supposed to be a center, but he's playing there without Sidney Crosby. And honestly, nobody else was a whole lot better. And that's where you realize the impact that Crosby has on faceoffs, that he has taken more than twice as many as the next closest Penn skaters. He's among the league leaders in faceoffs taken, and he wins more than 55% of them. It's just such a huge advantage that he creates. And Noel Acciari and Blake Lizotte are the only Pens above 50% besides him. So it's just really not a whole lot. It's similar to the shootout, not a whole lot of options for Dan Muse to turn to when he's not without his captain. I thought we might see after that performance the Avery Hayes, Rickard Rakell, Brian Russ line broken up. That unit has yet to score, but Muse stuck with it, and they looked a lot better on Sunday in the rout of Vegas. Definitely were creating some chances. Hayes has drawn 4 penalties in 4 NHL games. He had his first fight fighting Cole Reinhardt, a pretty uneventful fight. Not gonna even be able to declare a winner there, but Reinhardt was penalized for unsportsmanlike conduct, and the Pens got a power play out of it that they proceeded to score on. So he's having an impact in that way. But, Rakell, we know he's not as comfortable or as good at center as he is on the wing. So I thought we might see that broken up. We did not. And I think if the faceoffs continue to be a huge problem and it's affecting the team, both of those things, like sometimes you can get away with not winning a lot of faceoffs. The Pens are just average, actually a little bit below average this season on faceoffs, even with Crosby. So if it's not affecting you as it didn't on Sunday, I mean, they lost again 65% of the draws, but they dominated the game. Then yeah, you don't make a change if everything else is working. But if it becomes a problem like it was on Saturday in New York, where it's just preventing you from sustaining anything, and it's allowing them to rack up zone time, then yeah, that's where you might have to consider a change. And here's some of the things that I guess you could do. Back in January, Dubas talked about how Evgeny Malkin was playing on the wing because sometimes people coming back from a shoulder injury, it is hard for them to take faceoffs. At this point, I would have to imagine that's not fully the case. I mean, he looks fully healthy. He had that time off for the Olympic break. But at this point, you just really don't want to break up that Novak, Malkin, Chinakhov line because it's just been so good. So I understand why they don't want to put him at center. But if he could be a guy who maybe returns to taking some faceoffs if he's fully healthy. I think you also, if it again is a real problem that absolutely must be addressed, you could move Lizotte to third line center. You could move Kindel to the top line, and we'll talk about how well he's played recently. And Acciari could center the fourth line. Then you have some at least competent faceoff guys and guys who can be comfortable in that role in all four lines. Because Tommy Novak, he has been fine. It wasn't good on Saturday, but he can win some draws as well. So listen, it's faceoffs. It's not the be-all, end-all stat, but it is something to monitor when you consider how important Sidney Crosby is in that line or in that part of the game. You don't make a trade for a center just to survive until Crosby gets back. But you do that if you find a guy who you think can help you in the future as well. I think Robert Thomas in St. Louis is one of the big names on the trade market. He's probably way too expensive for what Kyle Dubas is looking to do. However, he is a very, very solid 26-year-old center. That's the age group Dubas has talked about wanting to add more of. He's one of the few names where if you saw the Pens go make a big add, I could see it being him. That's more aggressive than I anticipate the Penguins are going to be this week before the Friday trade deadline. So that was kind of the bad news of the weekend, but let's turn to the really, really impressive win Sunday and some of the storylines coming out of it after we take a super quick break. Welcome back to the Post-Gazette Penguins podcast. I'm King Jemison. And listen, the Pens had a disappointing loss on Saturday, but they still got a point out of it. And then they returned home for a really tough game. And this is the type of game where you're thinking getting 1 point would be a win. And instead, the Pens delivered one of their best performances of the season against the Vegas Golden Knights. 22-save shutout for Arturs Silovs, the second of his career. The first was in Madison Square Garden on the opening night of the season back in October. And I think it just put a spotlight on how well he's played recently. Silovs, in his past 9 starts, all since January 10th, he's got a 5-2-2 record, a .934 save percentage, and 1.77 goals against average. That is the best in the league among netminders with at least 5 starts in that span. He's been really, really good for a while now. And I think he looks capable of taking more than that even share of games. However, Stuart Skinner was also good on Saturday in New York, was a big part of why the Pens held on to keep a point, even though they were really bad for the second and third periods of that game. But we've seen Stuart Skinner's name pop up in trade rumors in multiple places. And I don't think that the Pens have to do that. I think it's still very much, he's a valuable goalie that you would feel comfortable carrying into a potential playoff run. But he is an unrestricted free agent. We saw Kyle Dubas make the move to trade Kulak last week, a UFA, swapping him in for Sam Girard, a defenseman with another year of team control. And in terms of goalies, you've got a goalie you feel really good about in the minors in Sergei Murashov. And now you've got a goalie in Arturs Silovs that looks like he's capable of playing more than every other game and really delivering for you. So I could see them making that move if they felt like it netted a really good return. But we shall see, because it's, Skinner has played well. That's part of the reason why he would fetch something. But it also could be part of the reason why they want to keep him around for the stretch run. But Silovs was excellent. Honestly, it was a pretty quiet 22-save shutout. Not a whole lot of really 10-bell save opportunities. But he got a lot of help from the play in front of him. And I think that decor has just been steadier and steadier. They're definitely clearing out the net front, not giving up a ton of rebound chances, a ton of chances from in tight. And we're seeing other teams struggle to sustain offensive zone time in a lot of cases. That wasn't the case in the second and third periods against New York, but it's really been the case for the other 2 games that the Pens have played since the Olympic break. So that's helping out their netminders, but Silovs has been a great backstop when they've needed him. And one of the other big stories of Sunday's game was the special teams were unbelievable again. The power play was basically 3 for 4, all in the second. Those 3 successful power plays all in the second period. One of them technically wasn't a power play goal. Igor Chinakhov scored his 10th goal in 21 games as a Pen, but it came about 6 seconds after a penalty expired. The power play unit was still on the ice. Mitch Marner wasn't able to join the play in time to do anything about it. So it doesn't get registered as a power play goal, but it effectively was. No such controversy around the other 2 power play goals in that second period. Brian Russ sweeps in 1 rebound. Ricard Raquel takes a pass from Erik Karlsson. Couldn't tell if it was kind of a pass shot, but a heavy pass at the least from Karlsson to his Swedish Olympic teammate. Adin Hill able to stop the first attempt from Raquel, but Raquel finds the rebound and sends it in. So a couple kind of dirty goals for the Pens on the power play. And that's just been a really good source of offense. And the power play wasn't very good for the last month before the Olympic break. It had fallen to 29th in that stretch from January 1st to February 5th. And now without Sidney Crosby, they've come back and it's gotten going again. It's 4 for 10. And as I mentioned, probably really should be 5 for 10. That's going to be something they're going to continue to count on without Crosby. And it's good to see the second power play unit making some contributions as well, because that's going to make the loss of Crosby in that first unit a little easier to bear. But the Pens are the only team in the NHL who is in the top 5 for both power play and penalty kill. After they stopped both Vegas power plays on Sunday, they're second in penalty kill. They're third in power play. It's a pretty good recipe for team success to be excellent on both special teams, and it's been a huge part of this surprising season. Another player who's been a huge part of this surprising season is 18-year-old rookie Ben Kindel, who was excellent again on Sunday. He opened the scoring with a self-created goal in the first period. He took the puck in the neutral zone. He weaved through traffic. Didn't really see anybody around him. It looked like he was kind of looking around for help to find a pass off of his entry. Instead, he just decided to rip it from the high slot, and he beat Adin Hill for his 7th goal in 9 games. So he's on a scoring tear, but it's not just that. He's playing well in so many areas. He's a really sound defender. He's winning puck battles. He's creating chances. He had an assist later on Sunday with a really savvy move, just dropping the puck off to a trailing Justin Brazeau and sort of providing a little bit of a screen because Brazeau was right behind him, and he ripped it past Adin Hill for the Pens' 5th goal of the game. And the Pens have scored 14 even-strength goals and allowed just 2 with Kindel on the ice the past 10 games. That is the best differential in the NHL over that span. Interestingly, the second and third in that stat across the entire league are also both Penguins. Erik Karlsson and Anthony Mantha are both plus 11 in that stretch. So I think it has a lot to do with how well the team is playing, obviously, but it's no coincidence when somebody like Kindel has a differential like that, because he's been doing so many good things on both sides of the ice. And he might be the Sidney Crosby replacement. You know, the more you watch him, the scoring ability, the two-way game, you realize that he has that kind of potential to be the top-line center moving forward. And we'll see if maybe he gets a shot in that role. He's been mixed in between Russ and Raquel every now and then. We'll see if maybe he gets a longer look in that role while Crosby is out. But he has been absolutely tremendous. And I think that he's just got to have Pens fans feeling really, really good about the future. But that's going to do it for the Monday edition of the Post-Gazette Penguins podcast. We'll be back later this week, but maybe not until after Friday's trade deadline. Obviously, a lot can happen before then. If they make a major move before Friday, we will record. But, you know, I think there's going to be so many things to sort out that we want to have all the information. Certainly be back with a trade deadline reaction on Friday. But they play 2 games during the week, a road tilt at Boston tomorrow on Tuesday and a home game versus Buffalo on Thursday. Both of those teams are in playoff position, so 2 more tough games. But the Pens have looked pretty darn good without Sidney Crosby. They're 2-0-1 without him. They'll look to continue that this week. So please like and subscribe wherever you're watching this, and please subscribe at post-gazette.com to get the best of our work. I'm your host, King Jemison. Thanks so much for watching, and have a great day.
Thank you for checking out this content from Post-Gazette Sports. If you watch this video on YouTube, please like the video and subscribe to our channel. For all of the sports coverage the Post-Gazette has to offer, visit post-gazette.com.